Good afternoon, everybody. What a privilege it is to be here today. I'm actually speaking on behalf of Ashley Gibson at SLR Consulting. He was kind enough to throw me in front of the audience today. But I'm also here with Patrick Quinlan, my colleague, and we're here really to talk about planning and approvals, but we'll get into that. You're probably all scratching your heads going, why is there a town planner at a battery manufacturing and storage event? So, oh, there we go. All right, so power planning. I thought there'd be some more power puns in today's discussion, but please bear with me. I do like a good dad joke. So I'm Ursula McInnes. I'm the Queensland Planning Lead for SLR Consulting. I'm going to talk to you today about who SLR are as a company, where I fit within that, some of the services that we also offer beyond town planning, and then I'll be going into the challenges that we're seeing with some of the investors that are actually going through the approvals process, whether it be manufacturing industrial land uses or actual standalone storage and battery energy storage facilities. And obviously the approvals process, so what sort of typical approval pathways you might look at, what are the challenges in there, and particularly around investment decisions and making sure that your decisions are robust and there's enough certainty in the framework and embedded into your approvals as well. All right, so hit the ground running. SLR, we're an environmental and sustainability consultancy company. Our motto is we make sustainability happen. So very timely to be here today when there are companies that are looking to sort of transition to net zero and industrial uses that are looking to diversify. All of you here today are at the forefront of making sustainability happen too. We've got lots of offices in Asia Pacific as well. I sit within a very small team in SLR, the Planning Asia Pacific team. We do approvals work across the East Coast and Western Australia as well, but we cover 7 different sectors, and we've got a huge team of in-house technical services as well. So we've got transport planners, air quality consultants, acoustic consultants, all which are relevant to manufacturing and battery storage facilities. So it's quite helpful to have it all in-house. All right, so why planning? Why am I here today? Well, as you know, there are loads of hurdles, regulatory hurdles that we've heard from today, particularly from Redflow in discussions with GHG. There have been a lot of local state planning frameworks that people need to actually go through, the hurdles, let's say regulatory hurdles. We really are at the forefront of this at the moment. The technology is changing and the planning system itself is still catching up. So I think they're doing a great job, but a lot of the stuff of the technology that you're talking about is not codified. There are no assessment benchmarks. So there are circuit breakers to the work that you're doing, which beyond the battery, just talking on Stephen Hickory's comment, I loved that, beyond the battery, that was great. This is where I come in. So when you've actually ramped up on your production, your industrial production, manufacturing, and you're looking to roll them out, we know that there are a load of challenges that you may encounter that you might want to start thinking about now. If everyone's running the rat race and trying to make haste, in delivering these projects that are so important to our transition to net zero, these are the sort of things you need to think about now. So up there, I've spoken about the regulatory framework hurdles, the new assessment technology, the new technology where benchmarks and councils are yet to sort of catch up. It's a bit of an education exercise. We're finding that we need to communicate and explain the technology so that they can be certain about what the risks are that they're actually trying to manage or condition. Obviously, Australia, I've ripped this beautiful map from the NEM fact sheet, but you can see there's 40,000 kilometres of transmission lines in Australia. So looking at the rollout of battery storage facilities across Australia, there is going to be a whole raft of environmental conditions and regions that you need to encounter. And obviously no 2 batteries are the same. So depending on your scale, some batteries may be ancillary to an industrial use, others may be 450 megawatt standalone battery storage facilities that connect into the grid. And this is, we're receiving a raft of inquiries and supporting certain investors and applicants through the planning process, but we get involved probably up front, more importantly, like there's a lot of pre-discussions that are happening to make sure we're shoring up those risks. So positively charged approvals, what are the typical stages that you may encounter as you go through? I see some smiles, thanks very much, Conan. The stages of the approval process are really quite simple. And it does really tie to some of the investment decisions as well. Upfront due diligence, site selection, and looking at what the approval pathways are, so selecting those that are actually appropriate for your development. And then obviously jumping into the development assessment process, stakeholder engagement, which is obviously another big element of the planning process, so that social licence and community consultation, which I think the CSIRO speaker spoke to earlier. And then also looking at post-approval permits because of the changing nature of technology. There is also a lot of refinement required at a later date once the technology is known. If you've got lead times for shipping from international locations for some of the battery storage facilities, then obviously you've got to factor that into your approvals as well. All right, so I've mentioned due diligence assessments. That's the bulk of the work that we're doing at the moment. We're really ensuring that investors have a no surprises approach. We're identifying all aspects of the regulatory framework from a land use planning perspective that may actually trigger assessment or trip up some of the delivery and implementation, as it leads to from concept to design. We do get involved in the strategic advisory support, looking at pipeline and prioritisation depending on what else is going on in and around the regions. So working across the east coast of Australia, there's quite a bit of activity in this space from all renewable energy facilities, not just battery, and manufacturing equally isn't just as big a part. All right, the types of approval pathways. So it is important that you engage a town planner early because there are so many levers that can be pulled within the planning framework to benefit your project. We're very lucky here in Queensland that there's the Ministerial Infrastructure Designation process. There are many battery storage facilities that are sort of looking at investigating this pathway because what it does, it's a first principles approach. You don't really get sucked into local councils' codes that are irrelevant and sort of rural zone codes for a use that has never been envisaged for the planning scheme in that particular area. But also knowing what might be an exemption or an ancillary use as well. And also technical specialists. I think, I won't go back because I'll probably ruin the presentation, but engaging technical specialists early. So at SLR we've got transport planners, acoustic engineers, the whole raft of inputs, I suppose, that are required to make a seamless assessment process. And then we jump into the assessment framework as well. So these are a lot of the elements we've already touched on and have heard from the speakers today around sort of fire and how you actually manage your emergency procedures. I think a lot of regulators are very nervous about that. It's the unknown. But our work really is engaging with them and ensuring that they're aware of the technology and what the risks really are that they're trying to manage. And as I mentioned, the stakeholder engagement too. So I think there's going to be the DEPW going to be releasing a toolkit for renewable energy investors in terms of how they maintain a social licence. We know that there's going to be a big rollout of some of these facilities across Australia, and I think we've got to maintain currency and make sure that the community are also brought along that journey. And we also get involved in, I think I mentioned this up front, the decisions and post-approval support is very, very important because we know that for your final investment decision, you may need to advise your investors that, hey, look, we've got enough certainty within this condition, we're happy to live with it, let's hit go. But knowing that there is going to be footprint changes, potentially micro-siting of inverters and batteries at a later date once you actually decide or confirm on your technology. So being able to gain confidence both from the regulator and the investors is a big part of what we do. And I think that's all I'll say today. Thank you so much, Lynette, for your time.